Thank you for joining a conversation about practicing the words, works, and ways of Jesus. I'm Steve Griffin, and this is Formation Through Following. Hey friends, let's talk about why I don't call myself a Christian. This is my first podcast ever, and so why not start out with something that is non-controversial? But suppose you were to ask me, are you a Christian? First, I think I would have to ask, and I mean sincerely ask, not trying to throw you off your game or make you defensive and not trying to be evasive. But I would really sincerely ask, well, what do you mean by Christian? What does that mean to you? And I think I have to ask that because language is fluid and Christian has taken on so many different connotations and meanings, even over the last, I would say, 40 years. And so if someone says, Steve, are you a Christian? I'm going to say, well, what do you mean by that term? This is what I think most people have in mind when they think Christian. And this is right or wrong. I think that they envision a politically right-leaning evangelical. And so when they say, are you a Christian? They want to know, really, I think four things come to the surface. They think, number one, you're anti-abortion. Two, you're anti-gay. Three, you're pro-gun. And, four, you vote Republican. Here's the problem. Here's the problem that I have with that. Where is Jesus in any of these things? You see what I'm getting at? Jesus isn't in any of their conceptualizing of what it means to be a Christian. Historically, we understand that the term Christian was first used in Antioch, the ancient city of Antioch. Today it would be in Turkey. And when it was used, it was probably not a compliment. It was a pejorative. But even though it was a pejorative, it was still associated, at least, with Jesus. Christian then meant, follower of Christ or belonging to the party of Christ. Some would say it means little Christ. But my point is, the label was associated with the person, Jesus, whether it was spoken as a compliment or as a pejorative. But it seems to me that Christian, in contemporary imagination, has very little to do with Jesus, with his words, works, and ways. And this is something that you're going to hear me talk a lot about if you choose to join me in conversation. I often think about the words, works, and ways of Jesus. There's a quote that's attributed to Gandhi. And he says, I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. And Gandhi should know. Gandhi read from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount every day. Isn't that amazing? Gandhi never called himself a Christian, that's for sure. But it seems that he was enthralled with the words and works and ways of Jesus. I'm convinced that being burned out on the church, being sick of religion, it's not at all the same thing as rejecting Jesus. I think there are so many people that are disillusioned with modern day evangelicalism and the church. And so they are, to use a term, deconstructing their faith. And many of them are leaving the church. They may refer to themselves as ex-evangelicals. But that doesn't mean that they want to walk away from Jesus. I remember many years ago, I saw a bumper sticker, and it read, "Jesus, save me from your followers." And that has stayed with me. Jesus, save me from your followers. I think, though, Christianity in America may be declining in public esteem, though that may be the case, I still believe that Jesus has mass appeal. And so I self-identify as a Jesus follower. This means that I am consciously practicing the words, the works, and the ways of Jesus. Now, please understand, this has nothing to do with performance. It has nothing to do with moral perfection. As C.S. Lewis once remarked, the ceiling, if there is one, is a long way off. So I'm not even talking about moral perfection. I'm just talking about following Jesus as a way of being in the world, in the day to day. I'm talking about trusting and sharing every aspect of life with Jesus as a living and present person. This podcast is my attempt to share my journey with Jesus with you. And I want you to know this, that wherever you are on your path, there are fellow travelers. You can walk alone, but you don't have to. Jesus says, are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Well, that's all for now. So leave a comment or a question and join the conversation. Until next time, show the world a Jesus-looking God.